I'm going to show you how to fix mistakes in the facts column on Ancestry.com. So here we are in a profile page for one of my ancestors, and there are several things going on here that I need to fix. What we're going to do is I'm just going to show you this column, and actually a couple of people have mentioned in the comment sections why they couldn't edit some of these facts, and I'm going to explain why. And the first one is, see how these are grayed out, and it says birth of sister, birth of brother. When the comments came in that they couldn't click on here and edit these, and it's because they have the family events turned on. So if we turn off family events, they go away. And now the family events are gone. And so let me turn those back on and explain something. So now that we have those turned back on, we can see the family events. And it's not so much that we can't click in. One of the commenters said that they wanted to fix this information and they couldn't drill in. Well, you could drill in by clicking on the hyperlink, but what that's going to do is it's going to bring Jesse here up to the top. It's going to open up his profile. What I suggest you do, if you're working on this ancestor and you want to keep this information open, then what you could do is right click and open in a new tab the Jesse file, and then go and fix whatever it is that you need to fix over here so that you preserve the original file for John that you were working on. All right, so there are several things going on here, and we're gonna drill in and take care of some of this stuff right now. First of all, I want to edit this name. All right, so we're really just dealing with the facts column today, but I want to edit this name because this all bold surname that we have at the top here is a holdover kind of from the old school way of doing things, and so I'm slowly changing these. So that's a simple edit. We can modify that and hit close, and that fixes it both at the top and here. Now if you're not seeing the names, it's because your filter's turned off, so just make sure that you have name and gender turned on. Having the alternate facts turned on gives you this other name that I have down here, and where it says John Henley Jr. and John Henley. For now, I'm going to leave that the same, but if I wanted to fix that, maybe add a period at the end of Junior, or I wanted to make it preferred, I would do that here. Okay, so here's a situation where I have two birth records with conflicting information. This one says he was born on the 1st of March, 1793 in Back Creek, Randolph County, North Carolina. This one says he was born in Perquimans County, North Carolina. And I had made a note in here. It says, per find a grave, you know, we're citing the records back to Back Creek. This conflicts with the Quaker record images that I have found on Ancestry. So if we, as you can see, when I click on this, it doesn't draw to any source. But when I click on this one, it draws to a lot of sources. Well, if we drill into the 1850 census, we'll see that drilling into the 1850 census, let's just open that in a new tab, we'll see that John Henley, it just says that he's born in North Carolina. It doesn't say where in North Carolina. Okay, this also draws down to some find a grave records and some Quaker records. Well, if we want to look at this American Quaker record right here, here he is. John Henley is right here, born in 1793. This is him. These are his parents. And this is from Back Creek monthly meeting where they are noting his birth date. Now, that's not absolute solid evidence that he's born in Randolph County, but Find a Grave isn't really a good source either because it doesn't have any actual records. So I can do one of two things. I can leave both of these on here, as I probably would, but if I wanted to merge them, I could. Or if I wanted to add the record information, I could come in here and I could edit, and then I could attach the sources. And in this case, it was the monthly meeting records, and there was some Find a Grave information. This Quaker meeting record is about him and his children, not where he was born. And so with that, I now have two pieces of evidence up here, and I can then close this. And then when I click on this record, it now draws to two sources down here. Hey, we're going to get back to that video here in just a moment, but I want to let you know that Genealogy TV has a website, a newsletter, and a Facebook page. Links for all of that are in the show notes below. All right, let's get back to it. Now, to make this a little easier, I'm going to turn off the alternate facts, and I'm going to turn off the family events just so that we can see all of the facts a little bit easier. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to show you down here. So we have the timeline, right? The timeline's drawing down the side, and all of a sudden we have some records that don't have a timeline associated with them. Well, the burial information does draw to a source on Find a Grave, but it doesn't have part of the timeline. Well, clearly he would have been buried shortly after his death. So I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to add an 1854 date and hit save and close. So now his burial is immediately following his death record. And if we, for some reason, discover exactly the day he was buried, we could go and then add that exact date in here. Now, here's a situation where we have a marriage record. And again, it draws to a marriage index, but we also have a marriage certificate up here, and it draws to several sources down here. So we could merge this information, assuming that it is the same wife, and it is. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take note that that's the marriage index. This is the marriage index. Look, we have it duplicated a couple times, and this one doesn't draw to anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to view them both to make sure that they are, in fact, the same record. Let me look at the other one real quick. They are the same record. Okay, so the one that doesn't draw to anything, I'm just going to remove that one. Bye-bye. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one that draws, okay, and I'm going to draw, and I'm going to have it attached to this one. So this is the North Carolina Marriage Index, 1741 to 2004. So I'm going to edit this. I'm going to go Attach Source. I'm going to look for that marriage index. I believe this is the one, so I'm going to click the plus button, and that puts it up at the top. There it is right there, the marriage index. I'm going to hit close because it automatically saves. And now with this marriage index, with this marriage record, it draws to all of the marriage information. Now let's take a look at this one and see if we should add this one. Same person. This is a marriage bond. And keep in mind that a marriage bond doesn't necessarily mean they got married, but in this case, they did. And let's see if this one is the same one. And it looks like it is. I'm going to look at the bond number ending in 2165. I'm going to go down here and look at that other bond ending in 2165. All right, so this is a duplicate. So let's remove this one. And more than likely, it got imported when I was maybe importing information about the spouse. So now with this marriage, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to add, I'm going to say attach source. I'm going to add that marriage bond in here as well. Marriage bond, there it is. Oh, there's North Carolina Marriage Collections. Let's do that one too. We'll go back and look at it just to make sure, but as long as we're here. Here's another bond index. Wow. Marriage Collection. See, there's duplicate records in here. We're going to get rid of some of these, but I'm going to say that's good. Okay, so now we've got, when we draw to a lot of these, right? And the reality is, if she's named in his will, that would be another piece of evidence of the marriage. If he says, I leave to my wife. Okay, so let's just double check. Margaret Clark, 2165. Margaret Clark, yep. So these look like different indexes. Yep, these are different indexes. So the same records have probably been indexed multiple times. And this one actually has an image of the marriage record. And by the way, let's just take a look at this. I want to show you something. So here you can't see it very well. Here's a little trick. So Margaret's written there, but it's so hard to see. So sometimes you can come over to this tool, invert the colors. And if you look closely, you can see her name. You can also play with the enhanced or not enhanced. So you have to hit settings, and then you can sometimes turning off the basic viewer helps. Didn't help in this case. Turn the basic, so the basic viewer turned off. Basic viewer turned on actually helps in this case. Enhancing the image also helped. I was playing with this a little earlier. So believe it or not, that says Margaret. It's really hard to see, but that's Margaret Clark. Okay, so there's another little tip about looking at some of those images on a microfilm when they're really difficult to read. And if I really wanted to, I could go and look at, where did it go? Let's go marriage. Draw to that record. Here it is. So if we wanted to get really in the weeds about this, we could try and find the original source. In this case, it's not really telling me much, but I can tell you that it's probably at the North Carolina State Archives. So now that we've got all the sources attached to this marriage record, when we scroll down, we have this one marriage event happening that draws to the same index that we attach to the record above. So we can get rid of this and just hit delete. There's nothing in here that tells us any additional information. And so we can just hit delete and that goes away. So now we have a residence left down here that is attached to something. What is this? Thomas Walker's book. Okay. And an index to colonial records. So we really need to drill into this and put a timeline on this. So drilling into the reference about the Thomas Walker book, it gives me some information about Randolph County, and this is a journal, but it doesn't have the actual media. There is no media here to attach to it. It is just some information. Well, this was published by the Randolph County Genealogical Society, so I can guarantee the next time I go to Randolph County, I'll be looking up this book because it's probably in the local library. So I'm going to leave that one alone because I don't want to mess with that. I do like that source to be there. And then the other one was this index to colonial records. And when we look at that, we can see that there's a bunch of information here about John Henley land grant information and such. Well, I know I can get a hold of the land grants for this area online, so I would do that. But I would also, next time I go to the state archives, probably be looking up some of this information because we also have a John Henley here, and maybe Jonathan, it depends, and John Henley here and a John Henley here. So there's a lot of good information to go after. So I'm going to leave those facts alone. You know, sometimes when in doubt, don't touch it. But there's a lot of great information here. I can tell just by the thumbnails that these are duplicate records. So let's just double check. We're going to see that, yes. Okay, so there's the birth of John Henley and, by wife Keziah. Okay, and so I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at that other one. These are the two thumbnails that look alike. And birth of John Henley and children by Keziah. Okay, so this is a duplicate source. Even though we're talking about facts today, we're going to get rid of this duplicate source while we're here. So I'm just going to hit remove. Okay, so all in all, we're starting to get the facts column cleaned up. We've got a date on the burial. We've got a probate. This residence, I need to do some more digging to find that out. And with that, we can turn our family events back on. And if there are any duplicates in here, like one of the comments that people were asking about was there was two sisters by the same name. Well, if you had two Sarahs in here, it's not in John's profile. It's that you have duplicate Sarahs if it's got the same information. So how you would fix that is to go to your tree and do a search for Sarah and make sure that there aren't any duplicates. And one of the ways you can do that is to peruse the dates. Now here I've got two different Sarah Henleys, different middle names, born in the same year. They might be duplicates. This is a baby, obviously died the same, was probably died at birth. And so I don't have any duplicates here, but if you did, this is where you would go and do the whole merge with duplicate from the ancestors profile. So if, for example, let's go back here and search for John Henley. Now, John Henley was a very popular name in this family. So he's born in 1793, dies in 1854. 1793 to 1854. 1793 to 1854. I don't see any duplicates for that name. So we've got the 1793 to 1854 is the profile that we're looking at right now. And so we don't have any duplicates for this ancestor. So we're good on this. Got some hints we can play with. We could still clean up some of this. We have duplicates in our source column for the Southern Division in 1850. We can remove that. It might be interesting to see if we can find him in 1840 and so on throughout his lifetime. So we've got some work to do. He dies in 1854, so he's not going to be after that. But we might be able to find him all the way back to as early as the 1800 census. Although it starts to become challenging when you get before 1850. So in this case, because this family is Quakers, it's a little bit easier because the Quaker records are so good. Now, I was a little quick on the draw when I deleted that duplicate 1850 census record because while this one draws to a residence in 1850, here is another 1850 census that is another duplicate in our facts column, so I'm just going to remove that one as well. And now we have one 1850 reference in his facts column. So all in all, I think this one is cleaned up pretty well. I've got the family events turned on right now. That's why you're seeing some of those gray boxes here, and I could certainly turn those off. And so again, I think for the commenters who were having problems fixing this information, the culprit was right here where you had family events turned on. I like to turn on all of them except for the historical insights. I usually, if I want to see the historical insights, I will go to the life story because it's the same information over there. We've cleaned this up as much as we can at the moment with the information that we have for the facts column. So I think we're in pretty good shape at this point. Well, I hope that was helpful. There's a lot of, little twists and tricks that you can play with Ancestry, but, try and keep your ancestors cleaned up as you go. As you're working each line, I would not feel like the need to go and clean up the entire tree right now, but hope that was helpful. There are more videos on the screen for your binge watching pleasure. We'll see you in the next one.